West, 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 West. This the West, 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 the West Coast. This the West, 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 the West, West. This the West, 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 the West Coast.
It is trade season on West Coast Mindset. This is episode 12. And before we get started, I want to give a quick congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder for winning the championship. What a year they had. But we're in the offseason now, and deals are being made. Let's get to it right now. Beginning with Kevin Durant being traded to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and picks. And it puts him now in a situation where he's on a young team whose odds skyrocketed, no pun intended, to be a top contender in the West next season. And yeah, I like this move for the Rockets. They get a bona fide, proven ISO scorer, a guy you can get the ball to and just get buckets. And that's what they were missing last year in the first round against the Warriors. It went 7 games, and they were nip and tuck with the Warriors the whole series. But when it came to getting a bucket in a closing situation, they didn't have that guy. Jalen Green was supposed to be that guy for them last year, but he disappeared, and he really wasn't trustworthy to be that guy. So they gave up Jalen Green this trade for Kevin Durant, and you know Durant can get buckets, so you can give him the ball and be like, "Yo, just give me a bucket right now and close this thing out." And Durant's gonna help him do that, so I like him there, and just the overall fit is good with all the pieces they have there, with the young and upcoming player and Amen Thompson. They have Alperen Sengun, who was their All-Star last year, Jabari Smith Jr., and a lot of the young players that are on that bench and the overall team. The fit is very nice for Kevin Durant there, and he doesn't have to do too much. All he has to do is just get open, score, and just get buckets, because there has been criticism of him in the past where he hasn't been the best leader, and he hasn't been really a guy that leads the troops and can lead his own team to a championship, besides going to the Warriors in 2015, 16, and those couple of years when the Warriors were just dominating people. But when it comes to him being the guy, he really hasn't lived up to it, especially with after leaving Brooklyn and going to Phoenix. He really hasn't lived up to leading his own team to a championship. But here, he doesn't have to do too much. All he has to do is just score, because they have everything else on the table as a team. And Ime Udoka is a great coach. He's going to keep that team grounded, and he's a great leader. Fred VanVleet's won the championship. He's a great leader. So the overall fit of him there is good. He doesn't have to be too much to lead that team going forward. Of course, he has to get buckets, of course, but that's just what Kevin Durant does. He's still averaging 27 points a game at age 37, which is phenomenal. So the guy can get buckets. You know that. And yeah, this is his final chance here to win the championship and prove the doubters wrong, because like I said, he hasn't won anywhere else except for Golden State, and he gets a lot of scrutiny for doing that because on that team he had Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, and that team was just unbeatable. So if he can go with this team and lead this young team to a championship, his legacy grows even more to be an all-time great player. So I like this move for the Rockets, and it's a bit of a fire sale going for the Suns. They get Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks as we look at the graphic here of the trade. Yeah, they get Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks. They get a 2025 first-round pick and 5 second-round picks. And the first-round pick to use in this draft was them getting Duke center Kaman Maluach. I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. But yeah, they're trying to rebuild and figure this thing on the fly, because it didn't work with Durant over there. And you know the Bradley Beal situation with him and his no trade clause, and he doesn't want to be traded. So they had to trade Durant to rebuild, because it just didn't work with Durant there. They had too much of the same guy, and overall as a team, it just didn't work. So the Suns have to rebuild and figure it out. But going back to the Rockets, I like this trade, and it'll be interesting, and they're definitely a top contender to compete for the championship and challenge the Oklahoma City Thunder to win the championship next year. Now let's move on from a team trying to win a championship to a team possibly trying to tear it all down next year, and the Boston Celtics trading away Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis in 2 separate deals, with Holiday being traded to the Blazers for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks. and Porzingis being traded to the Hawks in a 3-team deal that includes the Brooklyn Nets, the Atlanta Hawks, and of course the Boston Celtics, which we saw coming because the Celtics, I've been saying it last couple of episodes in the past, they have new ownership, and you had to think they were going to do something to get under the salary cap because Porzingis and Holiday were expensive contracts, and of course they have the two major contracts on their team with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, eating up most of the money on that team. And next season, Jason Tatum with the torn Achilles is not going to come back maybe all season, or if he does, possibly late in the season. So the Celtics already know that with the team this expensive, they don't expect to really compete for a championship next year. So this new ownership, they said, hey, we're going to have to cut ties with somebody, and it's got to be the two veterans on the team with Holiday and Porzingis. And they do get a young point guard in return for Holiday and Anthony Simons. He's a good scorer. He can shoot threes, and he's a good little player, but they're going to have to send him back because he's only a rental, really, because he's going to be a free agent after next season. So they got to make a decision and be like, hey, like, are we gonna build with this young player going forward, or is this literally just a throwaway and we're just gonna do what it takes to get rid of Jrue Holiday and just get the money out of the way? So we'll see what they do with that. And for the Porzingis trade, look at the trade details here. It's a 3-team deal that includes the Nets and Hawks, with the Celtics getting George Niang and a second-round pick. The Hawks get Porzingis and a second-round pick, and the Nets get Terrence Mann and a 2025 first-round pick, which they use to draft guard Drake Powell out of Carolina with the 22nd pick. So we'll see what the Nets do going forward with that pick. But yeah, it's looking like a full-on fire sale. And I don't know if you've seen the reports from Sean Saranya, and possibly Jaylen Brown could be on the move. Derek White can be on the move, if I was to bet, I don't think they're going to trade those two. But they're taking calls, so you never know. There's a possibility that, and like I said, it's a new ownership. They didn't draft these players, and they weren't there when these players were drafted. So they could possibly just say, hey, let's wipe it clean and build a new team around Jason Tatum because the second apron, it's a killer now, and teams do not want to be too much over the cap, and because it handcuffs your possibility of building a better team, because once you hit the second apron, you really can't make any moves after that. And it's the new agreement that these owners around the league agree with, because they want more parity and they want more small market teams to possibly compete and win a championship. As we saw this year with the Thunder, they were able to compete being in a small market, and with the Pacers, even though they didn't win, but they got to the finals. And it was just odd that two small market teams were able to get to the finals, and not the big teams. But that's what the league owners wanted, and we're seeing it. And the key now is you got to build your depth, and you have to be able to do more what they do in the NFL, and build around 2-star players, a couple max players, and then build the rest of the team kind of cheap under the salary cap. So that's what they want, and the Celtics are paying the price for that because their starting lineup was way too expensive, and they had to cut some guys. So Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis are gone, and we'll see what happens with the future of the Boston Celtics, because we got to see how Jason Tatum comes back from his Achilles. And I get he can come back in 1 year, but a lot of players say it takes about 2 years for you to get back to your 100% self and trust that Achilles again, and be yourself again. So the Celtics have a lot of questions going forward in the future to see where they possibly go as a franchise. So those two guys are gone, and there's a lot of questions going forward for the Boston Celtics. Now let's move on from a team trying to take advantage of the Celtics being down, and the Orlando Magic training for guard Desmond Bane from the Grizzlies in return for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and 5 first-round picks going back to Memphis as they try to figure out a new situation with John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. Yeah, and for Orlando, I really like this move, them getting Bane. He's a really good 3-and-D player. He can play the shooting guard and small forward positions. Very physical player. He can get up in you and defend. And they're following the model right now of the current NBA, and they're trying to get more wing depth and guys that can shoot threes. and he fits in well with the Magic. The Magic were one of the worst offensive teams. They were the worst three-point shooting team in the league last year, and they needed help in that department. And he only adds to is already a great defense as it is. They were one of the top defensive teams last year, and he's a really good, gritty player, and he fits into that mold of being a good defender. And I really like the Magic next year, and I think they could be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference and possibly compete with the Cavaliers, who are expected to be the favorite to possibly win the East now, because the Pacers, God bless to Tyrese Halliburton, he tore the Achilles, and they're going to have a tough go of it next year, and I don't think they have a chance to really compete. So it's really between the Cavaliers and everybody else in the Eastern Conference. It's wide open, with the Celtics being down with another Achilles injury to, like I talked about right now with Jason Tatum, and the Bucks have another Achilles injury. It's crazy with Damian Lillard. Yeah, it's the curse of the Achilles injury. I don't know what's going on with that, but the Magic, they have a really good shot to compete and be a threat in the Eastern Conference, and this move only helps them with that. And Paulo Banchero, he's going to take a step forward. I saw him play last year. The kid is an absolute monster. He's a 6'10", big, fast player. He can shoot from the perimeter. He can get up in you and get to the paint. Very athletic, and I love the way he's getting better every single year. And he's now take the absolute big step and be a superstar next year to lead his team to possibly compete. And Franz Wagner is going to come back. He was hurt a lot last year, and he's looking like he can be a good number 2. And the Magic have a really good chance to be good for the next couple of years, especially now with Bane. Although you can argue they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot for him, because 5 first-round picks, 4 of them being unprotected, that's a lot to give up. But it's a new NBA, like I said, and teams value wing depth, the guys that can shoot threes and defend. And Bane's that guy. And they got more in this trade than Kevin Durant being traded to Houston. So we're seeing with the way the NBA is being set up now. And for the Grizzlies, it's a good trade for them if you really think about it. They get a good veteran 3-and-D shooting guard with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They get a young, athletic combo guard as well with Cole Anthony. They get more depth at the guard position to help John Morant, because John Morant, as we've seen the last couple of years, he's had the issues with the off-the-court stuff. I don't even want to bring that up, but it is what it is. And his injuries, because he's a very physical, athletic point guard, and he flies a lot in the air, and he's susceptible to getting hurt. So they get more depth at the guard position. And they have some questions with Jaren Jackson, because he's an expiring contract and he can become a free agent, and he's extension eligible. So we'll see if they extend him and keep the nucleus between him and Ja as the 2 top guys on that team. And getting rid of the Bane contract also does help them in that aspect. So they could possibly throw more money at Jaren Jackson. And yeah, they get more depth, and they could possibly be a pretty solid team in the Western Conference, although the Western Conference is going to be absolutely loaded next year. So we'll see where they stand. But I think this is a good trade for both teams. I think both teams get what they need, and they get something that helps out both sides. And yeah, this is a good trade, and we're seeing a new trend of how teams are making moves now, and they're making moves fast and furious right now, because with the Kevin Durant trade I talked about in the first segment, that was made during the finals. Teams are not waiting. They want to get these moves done now. And credit to Shams Charania. He said that it was going to be a crazy trade season and a lot of moves are going to be made. And we're seeing it. And these moves are being made at a rapid pace. And teams want to reload, and they want to do what the Thunder are doing. And they want to load their team with a lot more depth. And it's a new way to win in the NBA. Now let us move on to the Lakers, as the King, LeBron James, has opted into a $52.6 million deal for the 2025-26 season, as he tries to help the team build for a championship run next season, as he is entering his age 42 season, which is absolutely bonkers, but it's the truth. And yeah, I got to give it to LeBron here. He's had criticism in the past where he's only taken Supermax and he only wants Supermax, but here he said, hey, I'm nearing the end here, and I want to win a championship. And he's seen the current NBA, as we've been talking about most of the podcast. And you can't build a team now with just throwing money everywhere. You have to build it more by sacrificing and being under the cap. And to his credit, he took the opt-in, and he was like, "Yeah, I made enough money in my career, and I'm gonna just take what they're giving me, and see if they can build this team and compete next year." Because there's a lot of questions for the Lakers, obviously, as we know, with the problems last year, as we saw in that shellacking they had in the first round against the Timberwolves. They had no size. They need to go get a center, whether if it's Miles Turner, if it's Bam Adebayo, if whoever it is they trade for. Mark Williams is already off the board. He already got traded to the Suns, and of course he was a part of the big story last year with the rescinded trade for Dalton Connect and all that, and that was a complete disaster, and that cost the Lakers. But yeah, they need to get a center, and they need to get some more depth on that team on the bench, and the Lakers have a lot of work to do, and Rob Pelinka has a lot of pressure on him to make moves to make the team better. And Dorian Finney-Smith opted out of his contracts, and they got to figure out if they want to sign him back, which I think they should. He's a very versatile player. He can play multiple positions, and he can shoot threes. So you got to bring him back, and you have to be able to get more size and get more toughness on the team, along with LeBron James and Luka Doncic. And with LeBron doing this, it helps him do that. So we'll see what the Lakers do. And Luka Doncic is entering his first full season with the Lakers, because people were criticizing him a lot last year. People forget he was only there for half a season, so and he was out of shape. So with the full training camp, and as we've seen right now, I don't know if you've seen on social media, Luka looks like he's in great shape. He's been working out hard. He's been posting a lot of videos of him in the gym, and the current post what was it on Saturday? Yeah, on Saturday. He looks good. He looks very slimmed down. And if you're a Laker fan, you got to feel confident that he's going to come into training camp in great shape. And he looks like the rookie Luka Doncic. He was moving at a fast pace, and he was just dominating people. And he wasn't that fat, slow guy where everybody can blow by him. So he's never going to be a great defender. But if he can just move his feet and try and stay in front of people, it's better for the Lakers, obviously, because last year Anthony Edwards completely destroyed him. He couldn't stay in front of anybody, and everybody was just blowing right past him. So him being in better shape obviously helps the Lakers. And JJ Redick and Rob Pelinka and all those guys sat down with them on that dinner, and they just gave him the business. They were like, "Hey, we want to build with you. We want to give you an extension here, but you got to do us a favor. You need to get in shape." And so far, he's doing it, and he looks good. And LeBron's always in great shape. So with LeBron being age 42 and still being in great shape, and I don't know if you've seen the video recently where he said that Savannah James, his wife, wants him to come home and he wants him to retire. So LeBron is saying, "Hey, this is it. This is possibly my last season. So we got to go for broke, and we need to build this team and compete and win it all next year." So this helps the Lakers. And Rob Pelinka, you got work to do, man. You got to make some moves. Now let's move on from the King to a former Laker, and Julius Randle, who agreed to a 3-year extension with the Timberwolves for $100 million. And he'll stay with Anthony Edwards and build as that duo and possibly compete in the Western Conference going forward. And this was a necessity for the Wolves. They needed to bring Randle back, because if he leaves, it's literally all just Anthony Edwards, and Anthony Edwards needs help. No matter how great he is, he's a great talent as it is, but everybody needs help. And then bringing Randle back only helps that. And they were able to bring back Naz Reid on a 5-year deal, so they have their depth right there in the front court. And yeah, the Timberwolves, they have some. They already got 2 other guys off the board that they need to bring back. We'll see what they do with Nickeil Alexander-Walker if they bring him back. If they bring him back, that'd be great, because they competed last year with these guys, and they've proven that in the playoffs these guys can show up. So this is good for the Timberwolves. And for Julius Randle, good for him. He dealt with a lot of scrutiny with the Knicks, where he really didn't show up in the playoffs, and he wasn't a big game player. But he played well last year in the playoffs. Had some big games. He dominated the Lakers as I brought up many times in the last segment. But yeah, he dominated the Lakers. He played very well against the Warriors in the second round. And yeah, he disappeared against the Thunder, but the Thunder are a great defensive team, and they had guys that can shut him down, and he really didn't show up. But overall, during the whole season, he played very well, and he deserves this extension. And he's only developed more chemistry with Anthony Edwards, and him and Edwards are only going to get better as a duo the more they play. Now entering their second season together, and yeah, it's a good deal for the Timberwolves, and it's good that they didn't just blow it up and just say, hey, like we can't do it. We have to blow it up and build around Anthony Edwards for the future. But they said, hey, we have enough here. We believe Anthony Edwards. We think he can take the next step and possibly lead us to a championship in the future. And for Ant, he's gotta get better. Like with the past two conference finals, last 2 years, he played well the first 2 rounds, but when it came to the conference finals, he really didn't show up and play well and take his game to the next level. So he has a lot of pressure on him coming into next year and an even better Western Conference, and we'll see what Timberwolves can do. But this is a good step, and yeah, the Wolves have a lot going forward for them in the next couple of years, and they have a good nucleus that can possibly lead them to success and maybe win that first ever championship in Minnesota. And we'll see. The Western Conference is loaded, but there's always a possibility for the unexpected, and the unexpected could be the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now let's close out the show with one final trade, with Lonzo Ball being traded to the Cavaliers in exchange for guard Isaac Okoro going back to Chicago. And yeah, you gotta feel good for Lonzo. This is a great opportunity for him. He's dealt with so much the last couple of years with his injuries. He's had 3 surgeries in the same knee, and a lot of people were questioning if he can come back and be a good player again and possibly be what he was. But to his credit, he was able to be a solid point guard for the Bulls last year. He really didn't put up great numbers, but he was a good enough point guard. So you got to think that he's only going to get better if he can stay healthy. And him going to Cleveland, he doesn't have to be the lead point guard. He can just come out the bench because Darius Garland, of course, is the lead point guard on that team. And, of course, they have Donovan Mitchell as the lead scorer on that team as a shooting guard. So Lonzo can just really just lean back and just be the backup point guard, and he can still run an offense. He's still a great passer, and it's good for him, and it's a great opportunity for him to be back on a contender and be back in the playoffs, because the Cavaliers, they're expected to be the best team in the Eastern Conference going into next season, because of course with the curse of the Achilles in the Eastern Conference with the Celtics and the Pacers and the Milwaukee Bucks, the Cavaliers are expected to be the best team in that conference. So this is good for him. And people were saying in this playoffs with Tyrese Halliburton, he's what Lonzo Ball was supposed to be. Because remember, Lonzo Ball, when he came out of UCLA with the Lakers, he was the same kind of guy, a long, athletic point guard who can run offense, old school, and he had a funky jump shot just like Tyrese Halliburton does right now. But to Tyrese's credit, he's always been able to make threes. Lonzo needed more work, but to his credit, when he got traded to the Pelicans, they worked with him, and now he's a more reliable 3-point shooter. So that's good for him, and yeah, this is a great opportunity for him to show that he can still play and be a good point guard, and who knows, possibly when he's a free agent again, and the team wants to take a flyer on him to be their starting point guard, he can do that. So good for Lonzo, and I'm wishing him the best, because I've always been a fan of him ever since he came out of UCLA when he came to the Lakers. Although he was a part of the Anthony Davis trade that got the Lakers the championship, but I've always liked Lonzo, and I'm wishing him the best. So good luck, Zo. And of course, you guys, I just finished my first week with Roundtable Sports being their intern, and it's been good. Like I've had a lot of fun. It was a good week of learning the basics, and the sky's the limit from here. I'm only gonna do better and start putting content out and stuff like that. And I can't wait for you guys to see what I can do for them, and it's gonna be a lot of fun, and I'm gonna get better. So look forward to it, guys. This was the West Coast Mindset, episode 12, and I will see you guys next week.
This the West, 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 West. This the West, 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 the West Coast. This the West, 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 the West, West. This the West, West, West,